Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tuesday night Doctor's Call. We are so excited to have you. As you can see, I am not Dr. Stacy. Dr. Stacy is on a deserved vacation with her family for the holiday. So I have stepped in to be part of part 3 of the Brain Health series that Dr. Don VerHulst and Dr. Stacy have been doing. I'm very excited to be here with you. So sit back, maybe you grab a notebook and a pen because you might want to take some notes. But really quickly, before we get started, I do want to remind everybody that even though we do have lots of doctors amongst our teams, Dr. Don is a doctor as well. We are not your doctor. So please know that the information that you're getting here this evening is for educational purposes only. We are certainly not here to cure, diagnose, or treat any diseases or symptoms that you might have going on, especially if you're nursing or pregnant. We always want all of you to know, please check with your doctors, right? So with that said, I have the honor of introducing you guys to Dr. Don VerHulst. Dr. Don and I have known each other for what, Don, almost 15 years?
All of that.
And he has been a spiritual guider for me, a wellness guider for me, and just a very, very good friend. So with that, I want to share a little bit about him. Dr. Don VerHulst is a medical doctor, teacher, ordained minister, and an inspirational speaker who hosts the television program Hope for Your Health on the TCT network. This show is aired over 160 nations. He is the author of several books, including Do This and Live Healthy, 30 Quick Tips for Better Health, and Your Waistline is Your Lifeline. He embraces the naturopathic philosophy of health and has dedicated his life to the teachings of the principles of preventative medicine. He has received his BS in zoology from the University of Michigan and his MD from Wayne State University School of Medicine. Dr. Don and his wife have 4 children. His wife, Susan, have 4 children, and since 2003, he has been the chief health consultant for It Works Global, a multinational health and nutrition company. And since 2012, Dr. Don has also been the chief science officer for Imbalance Health Corporation. Don, wow. I mean, that's quite the resume, sir.
Yes, and I'll tell you, sometimes Susan says I should read my own books, which I think is a good idea. We do. We need to practice what we preach, don't we?
We do. We do. So, Don, here we are again. This is the part 3 of the series. I'm going to let you talk a little bit about yourself and talk a little bit about introducing where we are now in the series. And then we have an incredible slideshow that we want to show for everybody as well.
Okay, thank you very much. And it is my distinct honor and pleasure to be here, and especially with you, Dr. Laura. I'll call you that because you have
so
PhD. You have PhD wisdom for sure.
Thank you.
I'll give you your honorary doctorate here. And she's a brainiac, as are those of you on this, or at least you will be after this session, because we're going to learn about your brain. We started out a couple of weeks ago, and just something that just came on my heart when we're talking about the brain. It just tells you the importance in your body, the priority that your body puts on your brain. I mean, your brain and your heart, those are pretty big areas that you need to make sure things are functioning right with. You can't live another 3 minutes without your heart beating. But even if you do, if your brain isn't functioning, you can't enjoy that life that you're given. And let's just see what the body thinks of it. Although the brain only weighs a few pounds, it's literally a few percent of what your body weight is. It takes up to 25% of the oxygen, the energy that you take in to energize cells. 1/4 of it is designated to the brain. It's so important that if your brain for some reason doesn't get blood flow, there's an automatic thing that happens called syncope, which is doctor's fancy word for fainting. When someone faints, they faint because blood flow is not getting to their brain, and that prioritizes, so it's easier for blood to get to their brain. So if you see somebody faint, don't lift them back up. Leave them laying down, lift their feet up to get even more blood flow to their brain. But the body certainly prioritizes the brain because it's what we think with. It's also, because it's such an important organ, along with the heart, also is important to keep it healthy. And there's many attacks that can happen along the way to your brain. And so your body has built in many, many safeguards as well to get and keep it healthy. And one of the most powerful ways to keep your brain healthy is by rejuvenating brain cells. And we talked some about that in the other sessions, and this is not a repeat of those things, but let me quickly summarize just a few things. Your body works by restoring itself during your entire lifetime. Now, I was taught in medical school when I got out in 1982. I've been doing natural alternatives for, I guess, over 4 decades now, 40 years. Doesn't seem like that long, but I was taught in medical school, and that was the belief in those days, that you're born with all your brain cells and you never get any more, but you lose about 8 to 10,000 a day every day of your life. But you have so many trillions, you have about 100 trillion cells in your brain, in your body rather, and many of those are brain cells. In fact, it's probably the most highly populated cellular population in your body. But if you do not, if you don't make any more and just lose 10,000 a day, it doesn't have any effect on you. This is what I was taught in medical school in error, that it didn't have an effect until you're age 65, where you start noting the things we call presenile dementia and brain fog and memory loss and things like that. And it's because of brain atrophy and losing those cells. Well, you do lose those cells. That's accurate. But what we didn't know is you build nerve cells as well. And more importantly, you build connections between brain cells. And in fact, that's how you think. Every thought builds a tree in your brain. It's an amazing science that, and you can see by the symmetry and the crystalline nature of a thought, whether it's a love thought where it looks really symmetrical like a healthy tree, and then if it's a fear-based thought, it's a negative thought, a negative emotion, for example, it is not. It's an ugly looking kind of a thing. It's very interesting science in and of itself. But how a brain cell talks to another brain cell and how often it does and how often that is repeated is what causes a memory to be formed. And the more we repeat something, a certain pattern in your brain, which would involve thousands of different, millions, billions of different brain cells, that's called cabling. And it's how well we remember something, like something that we've all cabled. If I say to you, dun, 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 and you thought about it long enough, you'd think, hey, that's twinkle, twinkle, little star. Why? Because we've cabled that in our brain over and over since we were a child. And that's how we remember things, for long-term memory at least. So the brain does lose cells all the time, but it's also making new cells all the time. And those new cells are made just like all the rest of the cells in your body. And they are remade by something called rejuvenating cells. And these rejuvenating cells in your body, you retain a number of them throughout your life. When you're born, when you're conceived, I should say, a sperm meets an egg and you have your first cell. That is literally a stem cell. A stem cell just means a cell that can become any kind of cell your body needs. Well, at that point, it's just 1, then it doubles 2, 4, 8, 16, and pretty soon there's thousands and millions and trillions of cells, some of which differentiate and become skin cells, heart cells, lung cells, muscle cells, different kinds of cells, but you always retain some of these primitive, primordial, superpower rejuvenating cells. And as you get older, you lose the ability to have a lot of those, and the activity of those rejuvenating cells goes down. And it's significant. By time age 35, you've lost 50% of that activity. And by the time you are age 65, you have lost 90%. Well, I heard that statistic and I'm like, wow, I'm going to support my rejuvenating cells any way that I can. And up until now, there was no direct way to activate and to rejuvenate and to increase the number of your own reproductive cells. But there is now with this technology that we're going to be talking about tonight. And of course, I'm referring to the X39 patch right now, and it works. All of these patches work non-transdermal, which means no chemicals going from your body into the patch. If you've not seen the patch, it's about the size of a quarter. It's like a round Band-Aid. I'll hold one up here. If you haven't seen it, it's got some backing on it. You peel off the backing, and then when it gets within 1 inch of the infrared of your body, it picks up your body's own heat energy, which is all it's doing is using the body as a battery. And that activates the crystalline matrix of amino acids, which causes it to form a very specific wavelength of light. And that light reflects into your body, and that light stimulates a signaling molecule. In the case of X39, it's GHK copper peptide. And we talked a great deal about GHK copper peptide, and for good reason, the last couple of weeks, how it's neuroprotective. It protects against degeneration, how it's stimulates directly the numbers of brain cells that you have, and all the wonderful things that it does to support brain health, and that it does cross the blood-brain barrier, which is a very, very fine system that your brain has, and it's to keep toxins from getting out. Everything just doesn't go in your brain. It's got to be just the right size and solubility and so forth. But one of the things that get in is that GHK copper peptide, that signaling molecule, and that stimulates your rejuvenating cells to make new brain cells if you need them, new nerve cells, new glial cells, which are the helper cells of your brain and spinal system. And then you need myelin sheath around all the nerve roots coming out of those brain cells so that they don't get crossed up and miscommunicate, which is what something like MS, that's exactly what it is. You're losing that insulation on the nerve axon itself. So there's a number of things going on there, and we need brain cells being made and remade, and you need to exercise your brain. And I think we have a slide at the end here that we'll get to that's really kind of summarizes what I've been doing for the last 40 years with people. And they're extremely important things. They're not the only things for your health, but they support not only brain function, but they support the function of the patch. And even though the patch is non-transdermal, which makes it completely safe, no side effects, you don't even have to ask if someone's on pharmaceuticals, over-the-counter medications or supplements, because it won't interfere with those. It's just helping your body do what it wants to do, literally turning back the hands of time and helping it to do it in a more youthful expression, and works actually on the genetic level as well, which we didn't talk about. But when you put that patch on, 4,200 of your genes, of your 18,000 genes, are immediately affected and being expressed at a healthier, more youthful level. So it works in a number of ways. It's safe. It's effective. There's clinical studies here, over 80 clinical studies. And these are, and we'll see a couple of those tonight. These are double-blind, placebo-controlled. They are independent studies, and some of them are peer-reviewed, which is the highest level of scrutiny. That means it's a good study. It's valid, and it proves what it's proving is valid and something to be noted and taken to heart and taken to your brain, because it's really a good study. So that we talked about with the brain. We're going to talk about a couple of other patches tonight, but I did want to give you that foundation on the brain and tell you how important it is to exercise your brain and to take care of it. Maybe I'm getting to the last slide here too quickly, but of course, God has set me free. God has set me free from the fear of repetition.
Yes,
Because that's how I learn. And I think if you're honest, we'll admit we all learn on about a second grade level. So if what I'm teaching you tonight is too simple for you, well, you're a lot smarter than me, but that's okay.
I love that.
I need to repeat things, and that's how I learn things. And My book, 10 Keys That Cure, one of the 5 books I've written, is about this subject specifically. And I cover this subject in all of my books. I've written a song about 10 supportive things that you can do. And these are not only supportive things for your health and your brain, but they're supportive for your patches as well. You cover these bases, patches will work better. They can work without it, but they work better with it. And okay, what are those things? Those things are learn to relax, because stress is the #1 enemy of your immune system. Get to bed on time. Resting time is restoration time. We'll go into a little more of that tonight. And then do your exercise. Exercise increases blood flow to the brain, oxygenating the brain, very important. And then breathe fresh air. You need the oxygen. And then when the sun's out there, sunshine is a brain healthy modality. And it turns out that it sets something called the wake-sleep cycle, the circadian rhythm, which is intimately associated with immune system function, how well your brain thinks. If you don't believe me, go a few nights without sleeping and see how your friends and family think how kind you are. It's just you need your sleep, and you need that wake-sleep cycle with the sunshine. And then those are the first 5 things. Learn to relax, get to bed on time, and do your exercise. Breathe fresh air when the sun's out there, and eat like this little rhyme. And that would be the things you eat when you have a choice, not the only things you can eat, but some of the healthiest choices you can make. Fruits and vegetables and whole grains. What are those? Those are God-made foods. They're real foods. If we don't start eating real foods, we're going to be in real trouble. And most Americans don't die of old age. They're digging their graves with their knives and forks, killing themselves with their teeth. But get back to God-made foods: fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and then white if you choose meat. I think a plant-based diet is probably healthier, but if you're going to eat meat, the healthiest meat is a white meat. It's got less fat in it, but fish would be #1 there. And then probably chicken and turkey. We're getting close to Turkey Day here, aren't we? And then finally, number 10, drink what you're mostly made of. Water makes your health complete. Staying hydrated, one of the most essential things you can do for your health long term, for certainly brain health. It's where nutrients are carried to your brain. It's where waste materials are flushed out and moved out through the kidney or through the liver or the colon. You got to stay hydrated to have proper colon function, which is the #1 detox organ in your body. So a lot of people aren't sick, they're just thirsty. You need to make it your goal to drink half of your weight in pounds and ounces of water a day. So on that foundation, I mean, those things are all important, and your patches will work better. So you can see how important your brain is, how your body prioritizes it. And this patch is smart technology. What do I mean by that? You put it on and you can forget about it. It's going to go to work for you, and it's going to go to the most important area where you need help right now. And you know what area that is? No, you don't. And I don't either. I don't even know all the things, and you don't know all the things going on in your body from day to day. There's thousands of things you have no idea, and you'll never find out about them. And it's a good thing, because your body has built-in repair mechanisms to fix them. So,
Don,
yeah, go ahead.
so with that said, you're talking about the supporting the systems that we talked about earlier in the weeks of the regeneration of cellular activity, basically what we spoke about. But there's other systems that slow down in our bodies as time goes on, as that aging process takes place. And I think tonight we're really going to be talking about coming in and supporting those systems and how it affects the brain, right?
Indeed. And there's something, Laura, I'm glad you brought me back into focus here. Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's usually my wife's job, so I don't get off on the rabbit trail. But when I think of, I use something when I'm talking with someone, I'm constantly thinking of something that I made up. It's called the health equation. It's just 2 areas that I know if I can help you reach your goals in those areas, you'll not only get healthy, you'll stay healthy longer, you'll resist a lot of sickness and disease, and you can even reverse many processes in your body that you don't want going on, and you can reverse aging in many cases. And those 2 areas are #1, detoxification, and we'll be talking a lot about that tonight. That means keeping toxins from getting in your body from the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, and then removing them efficiently once they've gotten in. So that's half of the health equation. The other half is balancing the immune system. And what does that mean? Well,
We're
you've
gonna
got
do
a
that.
system that's fearfully and wonderfully made in you that can handle any and every insult that happens if it's supported properly and it's balanced. If it's overbalanced and working, it can attack you. That's an autoimmune disease. Things like Hashimoto's thyroiditis or uh, muscular dystrophy or MS or other. There's so many. There's an implication of autoimmune picture in many, many different diseases. And you don't want that. That's why you don't always want to stimulate the immune system, because if it's like an asthma or allergy, that's an overactive immune system. We got to bring it back in balance. And there's ways to do that. So detoxify the body, balance your blood and immune system. I know as I help you reach your goals in those areas, you'll get and stay healthy. So with
Let's
that
start that.
foundation,
Yeah.
that great and lengthy foundation, let's go to our
Yeah,
first slide.
let's go to our
Let's find out
slideshow,
what we're talking about.
because this is fabulous and I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, let's talk about carnosine. Carnosine is a 2 amino acid protein. It's beta alanine
Hold
and
on
histidine.
1 minute, Don. I want this slide thing to go away so I can hit play and people can see. There we go.
Yeah, okay. Carnosine. I love carnosine. You know, to keep it simple, I'm going to say this just to get it in your brain, and then I'm going to repeat it a couple of times to cable it in your brain. When you think of carnosine, here's what I teach people about carnosine. If you have a brain or a heart and you care about them, you want to be making sure you've got enough carnosine in your body. It's responsible for health in those organ systems, really all the organ systems, and for specifically for longevity, as you'll see. But specifically, if you have a brain and a heart, you want to support carnosine levels, and it's a 2 amino acid protein, beta alanine and histidine. And if you're not a meat eater, meats have a lot of beta alanine in it, but vegans have trouble getting that. You might want to supplement with that alanine just to make sure you're getting that amino acid. But carnosine is extremely important for your brain, extremely important for your heart. And guess what? We have a patch called the carnosine patch. So let's see what our next slide says.
Yeah. And Don, a lot of people might not know that the body makes carnosine naturally.
Right. Yeah, good point. You do need the amino acids. You need the beta alanine, the histidine, and the body can make that. This I love this. This is from the NIH, National Institute of Health. This is from PubMed. It's about zinc, a very important nutrient, carnosine, and neurodegenerative diseases. Those are the diseases of aging. And they did a study showing how beneficial zinc and carnosine were. And this is not LifeWave. These are independent studies that are done. They're double-blind, placebo-controlled. This one would be peer-reviewed. That means you hand it to your colleagues and say, show me what's wrong with this study. And they pick it apart. So interesting study, carnosine and brain health. Let's see the next slide. Here's some of the ways that your carnosine is associated with brain health. One is it's a super antioxidant. What does that mean? Well, antioxidants protect your tissues and your bodies from free radical damage, aging. And I like to call this free radical, make the analogy, because this is the way I think of it, is that like that Tasmanian devil. I don't know if you remember him from the Bugs Bunny cartoon or Roadrunner. I can't remember which one. I think it was Bugs Bunny. And he whirls around and he's just trying to mess up everybody's life. That's what a free radical is like in your body, tearing up tissues. And the thing that quenches it and stops it are things called antioxidants. And they're basically the ACEs, ACES, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, and the trace mineral selenium. And by reducing this damage, oxidative stress, carnosine can help protect your brain from damage directly. So that's one way it works. And then a neuroprotective effect, there's actually, it's shown that carnosine protects certain areas of the brain from potentially aging. So once again, neurodegenerative, that means aging conditions. And then brain function itself. The cognitive process has to do with a cell talking to another cell, and then which cells talk to which ones, the pattern they talk in. There's lots of neurotransmitters involved, and things such as glutamate, which is involved, a transmitter that's involved in thinking, and it maintains it's important in maintaining healthy brain cell function, and carnosine influences that. And then, of course, the anti-aging effects, like the neuroprotective and antioxidant effects, that it's shown that carnosine may be very helpful in slowing down age-related cognitive decline. That means problems with memory and thinking, and support overall brain health. So those are all, any one of those is a good enough reason to start patching with your carnosine patch, but they're all important. And then on the next side, we see some very specific things. And of course, as Laura said, I am a doctor, but I'm not your doctor, and we don't diagnose or treat anything, and we never make medical claims for patches because we want them to stay non-prescription and not cost 10 times as much, and not have the FDA have anything to complain about. We want to stay compliant. And so we don't treat sickness and disease with patches, but there are a lot of studies that show that that carnosine can help reduce the effects of these processes, and in some cases even reverse them. And things like Alzheimer's, if you know someone with that, it can be a devastating disease process, or Parkinson's, which there's not a lot you can do for, even in the allopathic arena, like I've been trained in as an MD. There's not a lot there. We're constantly trying to find new drugs, but really all you have is supportive therapy that really works well, which are the 10 keys that I talked about. But now comes along carnosine, and it's shown that carnosine can slow the progression of the process. And then Huntington's disease, it's also getting more common, or I don't know if it's getting more common, or we're just finding it more often, recognizing it more often. But also it's found that carnosine can have protective effects to protect you against that, and to help you to even reverse some of the brain changes that are happening in Huntington's. So, whether it's Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Huntington's, MS would be in this group too, where, as I said, MS is just a breakdown of the myelin sheath, the fatty cells that go around a nerve to keep it from miscommunicating with other nerves. So all of these things are definitely helped when you have enough carnosine, which your body makes, as Laura said, but we'd like to make more because of all these benefits. So what does carnosine do as a nutrient? We've got some of the things here: to regulate metabolism, the rate at which you burn calorie, much like the thyroid does; to be protective of the brain as an antioxidant. We talked about that. Blocking MDA, which contributes to atherosclerosis, which is hardening of the arteries, not getting enough nutrients to the brain. Blocking joint inflammation, cataract formation. A heavy metal chelator, it's grabs onto toxic metals like lead and mercury and helps the body to remove them. And then combating against senile features, presenile dementia, things like that. It helps to support your brain's ability to function properly. We'll put it that way, because we're not treating any of these diseases. And then there's things that happen after a stroke that are negative. Excitotoxicity, where your brain's overactive, too much convergence, as we talked about that a little bit in one of the weeks before. And carnosine helps to balance that and bring that into balance. So very important if you know somebody who's had, and all stroke is a blood flow abnormality to the brain. And then telomere health. Finally, we got to that one. Telomeres are the ends of your chromosomes. And when you're born, you have really long telomeres, and all it is a bunch of repetitive sequences at the end of your chromosomes, so that when you're remaking chromosomes, because every time you make a new cell, you got to make a whole new set of 23 pairs of chromosomes, 46 chromosomes, which are thousands and thousands, millions of molecules, billions that need to be formed when you do that. And on the ends of the chromosomes, all this repetitive information protects those chromosomes, the real important information in the middle. As you get older, telomeres shorten, and when they get too short and you start going into the important information, that's what cuts your life short. So there's a very direct connection between telomere length and how long you live and how strong you live. And carnosine is known to help improve and protect telomere length. So that's enough reason to use carnosine. So as a biomarker, that's one of the things when we measure your age, we can count the number of candles on your birthday cake. That's your chronological age, but no one has the exact same biological age as their chronological age. Many people are much older or somewhat older than their stated age. And many people can be much younger. And that's what we can do when we enhance telomere lengths. We can measure your biological age right now. We can use that patch for 6 months, measure it again, and see what it did. And in many cases, we're going to find that it can actually decrease the biological age of different tissues and organs in your body. We measure things like fibrinogen level for cardiovascular health and CRP, C-reactive protein for level of inflammation. And we know what those levels are at certain ages, and we can find out where you fall on that scale. We can use patches and measure again and find out how much it has helped you. So it's very helpful in that. And then keeping your body from accumulating toxins. Carnosine's really good at this too. That's actually what's happening in Alzheimer's disease is something called beta-alanine 2. It's a gunk that gunks up in your brain. And if you can keep that away, you can certainly avoid and help to slow down the progress, certainly, of things like that. And mustard does that too. Not nearly as effective as carnosine, but we love mustard. We love it even more since we heard that. So if you get a chance to add some mustard to something, do it. It's an herb that is powerfully loaded with nutrients. So that was for free, Laura, not even on this.
Wow, I had no idea. That is wow.
So we like to dip pretzels in mustard.
There you go.
I found a vegetable I like to dip in it yet, but if I find one, that'd be better than pretzels. But we don't eat a lot of pretzels, but we eat a lot of mustard on the pretzels we eat. Anyway, so we've actually done some testing of the LifeWave anti-aging carnosine patches in restoring mental decline and reducing stress in older person, and it protects the brain from something called glycosylation. Glycosylation happens anytime you've got proteins in the presence of sugars, especially high sugar levels. They connect and it causes a brittleness or an aging of the whatever tissue it is. If it's skin, you get wrinkled skin. If it's brain, it's mental decline and other things like that. And carnosine has been shown to protect against that glycosylation. And then for the brain, also improve memory and the speed of memory. And part of that is, by the way, taking short-term memory, which you accumulate every day, and then that's in the hippocampus in the center of your brain. And then at night when you're resting, it's uploaded to the cortex, the highest center of the brain, if things are working properly. And that's how you store long-term memory. And the first thing that seems to be affected with aging with most people is short-term memory deficits. So we can help to turn short-term into long-term memory with proper sleeping habits and carnosine protecting the brain from aging and facilitating that process as well. And then there's a study that examined the reduction of stress by balancing sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. The sympathetic is the get up and go, you need it. It's the adrenaline system that you'd really have moving if you're exercising or running a race, doing something heroic, but your body was not designed to be on go all the time. You need to balance that with the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the resting system, which, by the way, one of my favorite patches, I'll just quick mention it here, AEON, AEON, our anti-inflammatory patch, does support and balance that parasympathetic resting nervous system. I've used it effectively with people who are stressed out and have, undue anxiety, whether during the day or night. You can wear that patch either time. I only recommend you wear X39 during the day because it will eventually give you balanced energy. So how do we measure cognitive function? If we want to figure out how your brain's working and look at it in some more scientific, objective, measurable entities, we can look at things like attention, reasoning, calculation, memory, spatial processing, reaction time, processing speed and accuracy, general thinking and proficiency. And in this case, a sample of 20 treatment, 20 control subjects aged 40 and older, not under close monitoring, with brain health issues. And what did we find? Let's see on the next slide. After 30 days, we found significant improvement in cognitive function. That's the ability to think. And then complex thought process was most effectively improved, which is very important. Reducing stress. I said stress was the #1 enemy of your immune system, and stress causes you to secrete something called cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And it's good. Your adrenal glands secrete it, and it helps you survive and do physical things. But a lot of people don't. Everybody releases cortisol every day, but you should have a mechanism that brings it back into balance or decreases it. One of those things is exercise, laughter, joy tends to bring that cortisol back to where it was. If you're not having rest time or exercise or a lot of laughter, you're literally stewing in your own juices. You got too much cortisol on board. And one of the negative things that too much cortisol does, it makes you stressed out and feel horrible. And it's negative for your immune system, as I've said many times, but it also causes accumulation of what I call toxic belly fat. That's weight right around your middle. That is the most ominous kind of weight for cardiovascular function, the function of the heart, and certainly isn't good for your brain function as well. And by the way, every extra pound of fat you have in your body, it takes over 100 miles of blood vessels to keep that pound of fat alive. That means if you're 10 pounds overweight, you've got an extra 1,000 miles of blood vessels that your heart has to pump blood through, and it's going to be taxing on your heart. And that's why people that are overweight don't live as long. And now 43% of Americans are overweight. And I think it's way higher than 66% now, like 73% are somewhat overweight. 43 are exogenously obese. That means over 30% overweight, which is very hard on your heart. So glutathione, let's go and talk about. This is my favorite antioxidant.
This is my favorite, Dr. Don. You know, I'm a huge advocate of.
Yeah, and for good reason. You used to get glutathione drips, right? IV glutathione, right, Doctor?
Right. Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, and it's expensive too. How often did you do those drips, and how much did they cost?
I did them twice a week, and each drip was about $480.
Well, not cheap. $800, almost $900 a week. That's $3,600 a month. That's expensive, but well worth it. I mean, you were fighting cancer at the time, right?
Yes, I was.
Glutathione is a very powerful protector of your body and your immune system that's fighting the cancer as well. And given IV, it gets in and goes to work. The thing about glutathione, there's so many things, but it is the master antioxidant, and your body makes it. Your liver makes glutathione, but as you get older, it makes less of it. So we want to enhance and support the process by which the body makes glutathione. And what does it do in your body? Well, as I said, it's the master antioxidant. I didn't include it in the antioxidants, ACEs, vitamin A, C, E, the trace mineral selenium. You need those. They have to come in your diet. They're essential. Your body can't make any of those. You don't make vitamin C, for example. Your dog and your cat, they do make vitamin C. That's why they don't need to take vitamin C or E supplement or eat foods with them, because they make it. But you don't. You need it in your diet. So when you get it in your diet, every molecule of vitamin C, let's talk about, for example, it works by donating an electron. But once that molecule of vitamin C, and there can be thousands or millions of them in a vitamin C source, like in apple, orange, or citrus fruit, or Actually, red pepper has 6 times the vitamin C that an orange does. So we eat red peppers every day. Susan and I literally eat them every day, live red peppers, for that reason, because they're loaded with vitamin C. But when that vitamin C gives its electron, it's no good anymore and useless. But if you have glutathione available, it gives back the electron to the vitamin C and literally lets it get reused. So it rejuices all the major antioxidants, vitamin A and vitamin C and vitamin E. So it's powerful in that sense. But as you get older, you don't make as many. And this is truly a paradigm shift in what's happened in my area of expertise, which I have been a formulator for over 30 years of my 40 years of doing natural alternatives. I've been making nutritional products. And when you use glutathione, 500 milligrams is a full dosage of it. That's what you'd want to get into someone. Here's the issue with glutathione. The half-life is only 7.5 minutes. That means whether you take it orally or in an IV drip like Laura was doing, 7.5 minutes after you put your 500 milligrams in, it's down to 250. And then 7.5 minutes after that, so 15 minutes in, it's down to 125 milligrams left. In a couple hours, there's virtually no glutathione left. That's the best you can do nutritionally. But the glutathione patch is a paradigm shift in that it signals a molecule in your liver to make more of your own glutathione. And we've seen levels of glutathione triple, and the effect lasts for 24 hours. So if you're using the patch properly, which I know you are, all patches are worn 24 hours on for activation and 24 hours off for rest and restoration.
Dr. Don?
Yeah.
12 hours on, 12 hours off.
12 hours on, 12 hours off.
Yep.
You're getting 24 hours of protection of a tripling of your glutathione level. You cannot attain that, no matter how much glutathione you took orally or IV. So this is just a improvement. There's no way to do it other than this new biotechnology called the glutathione patch. That patch will increase your liver's ability to make its own most powerful master antioxidant. And here's how it's associated with brain health. You see it here: antioxidants protection, that's protecting against the free radical damage from neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, other cognitive impairments. Or detoxification. We talked about that, cleaning out junk, the gunk of heavy metals, toxins, byproducts of normal cellular activity. It's neuroprotective, involved in keeping neurons, nerve cells working right, supporting these glial cells that protect and nourish the brain cells themselves. And then finally, inflammation regulation. Glutathione is a very well-known anti-inflammatory and chronic. Inflammation is not a bad thing. Inflammation just means your body's focusing on something, bringing nutrients in with more blood flow. When you bring in red cells, you're bringing in oxygen, which is restorative and cleaning up the area. When you bring in white cells, they're antimicrobial, they fight infections. And when you bring in nutrients, which comes in the inflammatory process with more blood flow, you get more nutrients for rebuilding. And then very important part of rebuilding is removing waste. And inflammation, a big important function of acute, immediate inflammation, is removing waste. Inflammation, it doesn't sound like a bad thing then, does it? Well, it's not unless it's chronic. And when it's chronic is when it can contribute to all the diseases of aging, the cancer, heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, stroke, and heart attacks. All of them are implicated. So how do we combat that? I'm glad you asked. We want to do it by keeping the master antioxidant at highest levels, 3 times as high, with our glutathione patch for brain health, to help reverse aging and support the body's ability to handle toxins and to balance the immune system and do all these wonderful things. And so how do we do it? Well, we can increase glutathione levels, as we say on this slide, with foods rich in the things that make glutathione. Sulfur-containing foods, garlic, onions, cruciferous vegetables. That's the things like broccoli and cauliflower and cabbage. foods high in antioxidants, fruits and vegetables. Usually the color and intensity, the depth of the color of the fruit or vegetable is a gross indicator of how much nutrient and antioxidant it contains. The darker, the better. And eat the skin. That's where the nutrients are if you can. Although I've never found a way to eat the skin of a pineapple yet, but good. And then how else can you increase glutathione levels? Supplements you can take orally or have them IV, but in 7.5 minutes, half of it's cleared out. And then that's why we say the oral bioavailability can be limited through direct glutathione supplementation. So what do? We wear the glutathione patch and let our body do it. The best way to boost your very own master antioxidant, glutathione. I think probably the greatest reason I make sure to wear my glutathione, and it always comes up, where should I put the patch? Or it comes up when you're first patching. Then you realize there's a little booklet with each of your patching sleeves that come, and the only page I look at is the last page because it's in several languages in the first 6 or 7. Then the last page just shows you the spots you can put it on. And you can put it anywhere in your body. You can put it right under your X39 on C7 or above it or to the left or right in the back of your neck. You can put it an inch or 2 below your belly button, right below your EON, the anti-inflammatory patch, which I hope you're wearing all the time, the dynamic duo, or to the left and right of those. Or I like to wear my glutathione on my right foot between my big toe and the first toe on top of my foot, because that's an energy point and an acupuncture point. That's a good place for glutathione to really go to work in your body and stimulate your body to make more glutathione, more technically. So this picture shows on the wrist wearing glutathione, which is another way, and it's a controlled study where glutathione, 15 test subjects were using it, and then they measured the glutathione levels in urine samples, and then they apply the patch 2 inches below the belly button, and they came back to the laboratory every 24 hours so that they could collect the blood, and they saw what the results of that, and showing compared to baseline how much higher the glutathione levels are by wearing the patch. The patch is not on trial. The glutathione patch works, but it will not work unless you wear it. So put it on. And then what's our next slide? This is powerful. These are the 15 subjects, what their baseline glutathione levels were. And then you can go from day 1 to day 5, measuring those levels. And you can see how they've gone from, the first subject goes from 1,600 to 7,100. The last subject went from 1,900 to 10,000. I mean, powerful. You just see the stair-step effect. And probably the most powerful way I can encourage you to use your own body's ability to make more glutathione via this patch is because what we found about blue zones. Blue zones are the 5 areas in the world. Here they are, Loma Linda, California, where the Seventh-day Adventist vegans started. That's a reason I think one of those is there. In Costa Rica, Sardinia, Italy, the Greek islands, and then Okinawa, Japan.
Amazing.
Those 5 areas have people that consistently live to be 100 years old and older, centenarians, and significantly more so than any other areas in the world. And there's a number of things they have in common, but there's a lot of differences too. But one thing we found, they have the highest level of glutathione. So you can be in a blue zone, whether you're in a red state, a blue state, or a white state like I am in Michigan when it snows, or a green state like you get blessed with down there in Florida, Laura. But you can be in a blue zone no matter where you are by wearing your glutathione patch. And what it does basically is help you keep the inflammatory process, which is helpful on an acute basis, but very dangerous long-term. And if it gets out of control, it's a natural immune response. But chronic inflammation can have detrimental effects on your brain and health function. That's what glutathione protects. That's why people in the blue zones live to be over 100, and they're not just living longer, they're living stronger. You don't want to just add years to your life. You want to add life to your years. You don't want to live to be 110 years old if you can't think or you can't function. But these people are living and functioning. It is possible. So let's go to our next slide. Chronic inflammation in the brain is linked to various neurological conditions and cognitive decline, that's thinking disorders, including the neurodegenerative disease. We've talked about Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. I mentioned MS. Inflammation is a significant contributor to these, so keeping inflammation down is very good. And I would say a combination of the Eon patch and the glutathione is a double dipping there, double power against it. And then mood disorders. I'm no stranger to that. I tried depression and I didn't like it. I've struggled with that in the past. And that's one of the most significant things that I've seen from consistent patching. And that didn't happen to me till the 9th month I was using it. And I know we recommend these patches 1 month for every decade of life. I was way beyond that. My 9 through 12 really helped me balance in that area in balancing mood. And that's all about neurotransmitters. You want those good neurotransmitters. You want your serotonin levels supported. That's what people are trying to do when they take the antidepressants, but there's some bad side effects with those and can be very dangerous, especially if you drink with them. That's a very dangerous thing to do. So mood disorders, and then stroke and brain injury. We get a lot of people wondering about that, how that is affected by what happens in inflammation there. Well, recovery from a stroke's all about inflammation, all about bringing new nutrients in, more red cells for oxygen, more white cells to fight infection, more nutrients to literally rebuild the brain, and then more blood flow to take toxins away, because you got a lot of dead cells. Literally, brain cells die in a stroke, and that releases a lot of toxic chemicals from the cells. They got to be cleaned out. It's a literally cleaning process, which, by the way, happens most efficiently while you're sleeping. So it's very important for a brain disorder patient to get enough sleep to clear out that inflammation that happens. And we started at the beginning. I'm glad that we mentioned some of these things, because they are the foundation on which your health is built, and the function of your patches as well. They'll work much better when you eat a healthy diet. What's an anti-inflammatory diet? Well, it's God-made foods, not man-made processed foods. That means, avoid things in a box, bag, or can. Now, you can have it on Thanksgiving Day, but the rest of the year, you stick with fruits and vegetables and whole grains and fish and nuts and those things loaded with antioxidants. Eat the rainbow. The color of the rainbow. Try to vary the color of your diet. You'll get all the nutrients. And then regular exercise, specifically increasing blood flow and oxygen to your brain, that consumes 25% of your body's oxygen, even though it's only 3% of the size of your body. And then stress reduction, so important, that contributes to aging and inflammation. Things like mindfulness and meditation, yoga, stretching, relaxation. I do that almost every day. Very important to balance your brain. Resting time is restoration time, balancing that parasympathetic nervous system. Adequate sleep, absolutely essential, not just taking short-term memory and turning it into long-term cognitive benefits, but prioritizing sleep. Hygiene can reduce inflammation, support brain health, and finally, avoiding toxins, just keeping toxins from getting in, from the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, trying to avoid toxic things consistently. Now, you're going to get exposed to toxins. There's nothing to sit in fear. But when you have a choice, breathe fresh air and stay away from areas that are going to be high in toxins. And then probably one of the most important things you can do for your brain, your overall health, is to reduce stress. Go that way. Go the direction of reducing stress. Too many of us are going the other way. We need to change our direction, because that parasympathetic nervous system is the rest and digest response. I like that verbiage there, rest and digest. It's when you're using the nutrients you need. That's why you need to let your GI tract work too. Don't eat a big meal and go to bed. Quit eating after your last meal and give your body a few hours before it goes to sleep. That will give you optimal ability to restore, to rest and digest, right? And that balances the sympathetic nervous system, which you need to get up and get moving. So you need that balance. So The parasympathetic nervous system plays a significant role in supporting brain health and overall well-being through its influence on various bodily functions, stress reduction, better digestion, better sleep, improved thinking, cognitive function, and then a balanced emotional state. All of these things play key roles in brain health. They're very important, and they'll support not only your ability to think clearer, to have a better memory, to be at peace in your mind, but to live longer and stronger. Balance is the key word. It's that we call it in medicine and in science homeostasis. It's that very important balance between catabolism, building up your body, which is constantly going on, and catabolism, tearing it down. When you reach that steady state, that's homeostasis. That's what we call health or ease. When it gets out of balance, that's when we call it dis-ease. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather be in ease than dis-ease. And finally, here's a double-blind placebo-controlled heart rate variability investigation. And it's measuring the effects of organic nanoscale ion patch on the autonomic nervous system. What's that mean? It means this was a study to test how well the ion patch helps you to balance emotion or anxiety. And that's what this study showed. It's a wonderful patch. In fact, before the X39, it was the #1 selling most popular patch. And I love that patch. The dynamic duo is always going to be, for me, X39 on C7, the back of your neck, down the base of your skull, at the base of your neck where that bump is, that's C7, around that area for X39, and then an inch below your belly button, as this picture shows, for your Eon patch, and eliciting the parasympathetic response and allowing you to have a reduced stress state. And these things are all clinically studied. They really work, but it only works if you have the patch on. So get your dynamic duo on for sure, with your X39 for rejuvenating cell support, and then your Eon for balancing inflammation, and then add glutathione as quickly as you can, the master antioxidant, and then carnosine if you have a brain or a heart. That's my story, Laura, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, Don, that was amazing. And you know, those 3 patches, I wear those 3 patches every single day.
I do too.
And when you were talking about that last slide, you know, a lot of people, you know, so much stress goes on the brain when we crawl in bed, and there's so many people who just cannot shut their brain off. They just can't. It's like the ticker tape on the stocks at the stock exchange. But if you take that Eon patch, like you just said, and put it in that triple warmer spot right below the belly button, over a few nights of you guys trying this, that brain is going to calm down and shut off and allow you to slip into a restful sleep. You know, Don, I'll kill somebody if I don't sleep. And
You
that's
know,
a lot of stress on your brain.
yeah, much better to be calm and have balance. That's why I recommend when people get up, I like to teach people, when you're brushing your teeth, put your patches on. That way you remember when the starting point is, and then
Right.
12 hours later, you're going to take it off. You know, so you need to daily patch yourself on the back. Put that X39 there, and then go to that. What'd you call that spot? The triple warming
The
spot?
triple warmer spot. It's an acupuncture point.
Okay, triple.
Yep.
I've not heard of that. I
Oh my
love the
gosh,
spot.
did I just teach Dr. Don something
You
new?
did
Oh my
indeed.
gosh.
I'm a perpetual student. I'm at thirsting for knowledge. I learn things new every day, and that's exercising your brain. That's how we learn. I learned things that I
Yeah.
was reading on slides tonight that I didn't know before I read the
Wow.
slides.
And
So
they were
I'm
very
a
informative
student
slides.
with
We're going to
you.
have give credit there to Dr. Stacy, but I know a lot of you probably, I saw a few come in the chat that you had questions, but as you can see, tonight was just a plethora of incredible information. And Don, you know, you and I and Dr. Stacy, we come from this place of nutrition is always the basis, you know, and we get one body and we get one brain and we have one heart, and this is just a compilation of well-being, living well, and doing it as long as we can.
Yes, it's a
right?
very good point, and people ask me this quite often, and you think about it, and it kind of gives me a chuckle now. But at first, I had to think about it. They said, "Now, when I'm using patches, they're working so well, and I believe all this research. I know it's working. Do I still need to take supplements?" And of course, the answer to that is, do you still need to eat?
Yeah.
Of course you do. You need to eat. And when you eat, can you get all the nutrients you need out of your foods? No, there's depleted soils, and no one's getting enough
Right.
magnesium. No one's getting enough vitamin C, and no one's getting enough different nutrients. So, the most important nutrient for your health is the one that's missing. Get on a good balanced multiple vitamin mineral supplement. But more importantly, eat God made foods, real foods, fruits and vegetables, whole grains, white if you choose meat. Drink what you're mostly made of. Water makes your health complete. These things are what are going to change your healthy future. And now we just have another whole level of building on that foundation to take you to another experience of living longer and stronger and your very best life. The best of your life can be the rest of your life. I'm convinced of that, no matter what your age or health condition right now. It can get better. It does
Absolutely.
not have to deteriorate. Your body is fearfully and wonderfully made. So let's give our bodies all the nutrients and all the support that it needs to go ahead and do what it does best. The days of a man's life are 120 years. You can live 120 years. That's how you were designed, to live long and strong. And I'm going to be here in
I'm going to
120
be here
years. I
with you,
believe
Dr.
that.
Don. I'm going to be here with you. And I'm sure I speak for everybody on. We had, oh my gosh, almost 400 people on here tonight. And we just want to thank you for spending your time with us. I know it's the holiday weekend and you have family in town, and we love and appreciate you so very much. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And thank you. It's an honor to be with you, Dr. Laura, the honorary Dr. Laura, and to talk about
And
something so important as brain function.
absolutely. And we hope all of you that joined us, we welcome our guests. Thank you for joining us. Get back with the person that invited you if you have more questions. We all work together. They are here to help you, as well as Dr. Don and myself. Have an amazing Thanksgiving. Have a blessed holiday and enjoy your friends and family. Don, good night, sir.
Good night. Good to see everyone.
Bye bye.
Blessings. Happy Thanksgiving.